of a sort of internal implosion, I guess. Never really saw them in season 2, and then now season 3, 2 teams in the division. So this is great to see. Again, all Tron bikes, so obviously well experienced Zwifters. They're in this. They're just coming out now. They're at that 4 kilometer mark. They're just coming out of that hard first portion of the course. So I'd anticipate seeing them getting in a straight line, but it does look like they're finding that draft factor a little bit tricky as they're all sort of bunching up behind and moving, pretty quickly out to the right and out to the left and not really staying in that straight line formation. And I do believe that's just maybe a little bit of inexperience with how the new draft works.
Yeah, Relentless, certainly the big name that we were talking about in season. I think some of the teams often change their team names around. There has actually been a change of regulation this season, Anna, where teams cannot change their name. And it was happening not too often, but in a few cases where teams were almost using it as a bit of a subterfuge to trick some of the other teams into recognising them immediately, and so they've tied a knot in that little loophole, so we won't be seeing that this year, which is good. Easy for the commentators and easy for the fans, but also easy for the other teams.
I've just seen a message come through from Daz Carter that actually it was because the race times didn't suit Relentless in Series 2, so they skipped that. So there we go. That was the reason we didn't see so much of them in Season 2, but here we see Season 3. And Henri Gouet, who I've actually talked to on a Zoom call over way back in Season 1 to find out a bit more about Relentless, and great to see him out racing. I didn't actually realize that he was going to be racing with the team, so great to see him here in the first race of Season 3.
Oh, that's unreal. It's great to see them back. One of the big animators from last season, of course, was Beast Mode. They've now stepped up to Premier League, so we won't be seeing them in this anymore. We'll have to tune in later tonight for Premier League if anybody wants to check that out. But for now, Anna, they look like they're moving pretty well. The heart rate, so Ottstott, he's another rider that we've seen a whole lot of. He's very consistent in his performances. He's sitting a little bit under threshold. So do you think that they're just trying to temper it for the first half of this course? Because it is, the first time out on course for the season, and also the kind of course where that final 10 kilometres is very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, those numbers were quite low, relatively speaking. I mean, that was around the 4.5. So you can just see it's going up now with Ottstott to around 5 watts a kg. But, I mean, if these guys want to be competitive, what we've seen from DPAC is more 6 watt a kg kind of efforts on the front for that short period of time. Then they move to the back. So we're seeing that a little bit more now. But I have a feeling they're just relying too much on some of those front riders, maybe like Ottstott, and it's just, I don't think it's really going to work super well. I would say that they should be pushing higher watts here if they want to be competitive. 47, 48 kilometers an hour downhill, but I mean, they'd want to be holding that sort of on the flats as well. So maybe they did push a little bit too hard at the front. Maybe they're having a little bit trouble sticking in the straight line. It's definitely not the sort of well-oiled machine that we're going to probably see from DPAC a little bit later on in the broadcast.
All right, so we're back now with Cryogen, another outfit that we've become pretty used to in the racing, because they've been pretty high performers across the board. Again, Anna, quite a number of Tron bikes. It seems like it's become a bit of the default, but there's a good disc wheel we're seeing as well, and that aero helmet, so he's got that set up nailed. They're also settling into a bit of a similar routine in terms of watts per kg, but the heart rate's a lot higher. We're looking at Sayer, which suggests that he's really pushing the envelope already. They're only 6.2 kilometres in, which is only about a quarter of the way in. Of course, 24 kilometres they've got to race today. Often in a team's time trial, you only have to cross the line with 4 riders. So it's not unusual that in these opening stages they may actually use 1 or 2 riders up and then kind of release the final 4 to get to that finish as fast as possible. But I reckon, Anna, it'll be pretty interesting to see today whether the teams have already established who their top riders may be, or whether they're testing the waters a little bit.
Yeah, it's the teams, I've got to say, are a little bit messier than I had thought we'd see them. I thought they might be a bit sort of cleaner coming into these flat areas, but this is the first race, and I think there'll be a lot of new riders. I actually just saw in this team a New Zealander that isn't Sam Lindsay, so there must be another Kiwi out there. I was just checking if I actually knew him, because usually I'd know almost every New Zealander out there Zwifting, so I'll check it out. But I think Bleakley may be new, and I think we'll find this with a lot of the teams racing in this first race is some new members who maybe aren't used to the intensity of this league style racing and the sort of internal battles that start happening with other teams in your division. So yeah, we're back here with AHDR. They look like are they all for the cake? Okay, that's like they're the female team we saw in season 2, so good to see a similar name. And these guys are
I think the women were we ate the cake.
Oh, so these guys are what we are the cake.
We're all for the cake. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, we can do what we want with that one. We'll leave that one right alone. Some interesting naming conventions, as always.
Oh, great. But these guys do look like they're pushing pretty well. So they're right up on that 5.5 watts a kg on the front. They're about 25 seconds back from the Cryogen team and really cutting into that lead. So they're obviously going pretty fast. We've got some really nice setups on the bikes there. Like I said, that specialized Venge with that disc wheel. Best choice for the race around here on the Deuce fronts. And yeah, looks like these guys know what they're doing.
Yeah, you mentioned that you're a bit surprised that some of the teams aren't looking quite as neat. I reckon by the end of last season, we got so used to every team across every division being so smooth and looking so sorted that it's almost feels like we're going back to the opening weeks of those seasons. And it is good to remember, actually, that it often takes them a couple of weeks before they really get back into the groove. And like we said in the opening, we don't necessarily know what everybody's been doing for the last month, whether they've been getting ready for this season or whether they've been taking a break and will maybe race into this a little bit more and get their legs.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I think there's 2 ways people have approached it. I know that quite a few people after the first 2 seasons just going so full on really took a break and didn't do a whole lot of biking. Or there were some who did a lot of long, easy stuff to sort of maybe pull in a bit of emergency base work prior to coming into this season. We've also just had Easter, and we know that's a lot of chocolate, so it can always be a bit tricky to kind of come back to some full-on intensity after a big holiday. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty good though. I think these guys are racing well. I think I think this first race will be really hard though. I think it's always a bit more of a shock to the system when you've had that sort of month off and then you go, oh yeah, this is what it feels like to be racing at this intensity again.
It is an interesting balance, isn't it? When you spend a little bit of time in Zwift, and we're looking at the Eat Dirt Aces here. We've gone back to them. All in black. They look pretty stealth actually, aside from that solo Tron bike that we've got there. But it can be a bit of a shock to the system when you've been Zwifting a fair bit, maybe doing some workouts or some bunch rides, when you do get yourself in a race scenario, because that extra intensity is so different to what a lot of those day-to-day riding can actually be like. And it is also a long season. So we've got 8 weeks in season 3, the normal season, before we head into playoffs. And your form can change quite a lot over the course of 8 weeks. So what we saw in season 1 and season 2 is a lot of the riders coming in a little bit underdone and really racing into the season.
And I do think on the front, that was then Freighter, who was actually I do believe the husband of one of the girls in the Sarah Sapro's Closet Premier Women's Division, a recent pickup. She was actually from one of the community leagues. now called Ebsk Fines, but the Finesse team. She's been a pickup and is now racing Prem Division. So I think Jonathan's goal tonight was to go out and make sure that he beats the team that his wife is on. Although I am the DS for that team, and I'm going to say that it's going to be hard pressed to beat that team. They're going pretty well, but he looks extremely motivated, riding on the front here at 6 watts a kg. He is dominating, and he's actually in the dad's inside riding trainers because they have a young daughter about, I want to guess, between a year and 18 months. So great work for them doing the dual parenting, one Zwifting and one watching the baby.
Yeah, one bouncing the bouncer while the other one gets their Zwift efforts in. It is a very good effort. And you're right, he seems to be on a bit of a mission here. He's got a little bit to prove. This is a really long pull that he's been doing. But it looks like his turn has just come to an end, so he can take a little bit of a deep breath and a breather. Usually, Anna, people within the teams, they communicate on Discord. So you do a fair bit of the directing. What are the kind of cues that you use to your riders in a team's time trial when they need to pick up the pace or when they need to swap turns if they haven't done that in a timely manner?
I'm purely, a lot of the time, looking at momentum and speed. So you can see in the top part of screen, you can see they're going about 42k an hour, this team. I'd be looking at that and just making sure that their momentum isn't shifting too much. If someone's on the front and the speed is going down, I'd be saying, yep, come off. But to be honest, very rarely would I be telling someone to come off. I think people are pushing so hard that they're almost desperate to come off when their turn is coming to an end. Not many people push beyond that. A lot of the sort of de-guessing, I believe, is because you can have a view like this, more of a bird's eye view. You can tell when the team is starting to splinter a little bit, people are dropping or people are pushing too hard off the front. So you'd almost say here that Cryogen just pushed that little bit too hard up there and it kind of split those riders off the back. This is where I'd be saying, okay, ease up at the front, let them catch up on the downhill. So a lot of it is you've just got a different view. When you're in the race, all you see is your own view, and that's pretty much the wheel in front of you. It's very hard to see what's happening behind you.
Yeah, so they've just come over the Aqueduct KOM. It isn't too much of a climb. Yes, technically we can call it a climb and a descent, but it isn't actually to market, and they don't actually get a whole lot of recovery down here. Sometimes it can be enough, though, those little pinches to really do some damage to the riders who are just hanging on anyway, because the differential up a climb is quite different. We'll jump across to the women's race to check out what's going on over there. Of course, we've got the men and the women racing concurrently at the moment. So when we pan back, look at that now. That's a bit of a gap opening up there, Anna. Not ideal in a team's time trial.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I call the hero maneuver. So that's where someone comes off the front and instead of sort of taking a more controlled pull, sort of goes, yeah, I got this, and just slams it off the front, kind of dropping their teammates in the process. So those behind will sort of be saying, okay, hold it back, see, like, just chill, we've gapped off a little bit, just rein it in, and the others will catch up. So they seem to be riding pretty well there, the four of them together. They'll catch up eventually. That's Deirdre, Zoe, Mel's, and Jay Clark, I think, from this team. So nicely they've got their first names kind of written there as their first and last names. And yeah, riding pretty well now that C's been caught up and maybe have a little rest off the back. But these guys are 16.5 kilometers in now. They're nearing the end of this 24-kilometer course, just about 8k to go. And this part is really great for team time trialing. Almost complete flat, long straight stretches of road. It's just perfect to get in this formation that this group is doing right now.
And this is the Aussie Hump Day Riders ladies, so AHDRL. It's quite an acronym. When I first joined the Zwift world, I wondered what on earth they were talking about. We're up to speed now. They're a huge community, the largest community in Australia actually on Zwift, which is pretty cool. And their leader, Tim Bacon-Searle, he has ridden over 100 kilometres every single day for the last year, Anna. So a bit of mind-blowing motivation going on there. He certainly leads by example, but they do have a lot of teams entered across all of the different leagues and grades, and they really are a very good example of how you can bring some of the riders on the journey through. So a lot of them are new not just to indoor riding, but to riding at all, and they really find a way to motivate them along. Now, they have come back together, as you say, and sometimes there is a difference, isn't there, between a hero move that's quite purposeful versus everybody kind of finding their legs and finding their strength. And something I've noticed, especially in these opening weeks where everybody's kind of finding their feet, is a team's time trial is an event where you really need to know your other riders very well and control how you ride to match the kind of rider that they are as well. And sometimes people, they lack a little bit of confidence. So they actually accelerate at the front more than they mean to because they don't think they're as good as they are. And they think, oh, everybody will be able to keep up and I don't want to let them down. So there's also a little bit of mind games going on here.
Oh, you are completely right there, Katie. We've actually got a rider on one of the teams I look after who admitted that when we were practicing. She kept sort of going off the front and she said, I've just got a complex because I've got the lowest FTP out of everyone here. And so she was, yeah, like you said, kind of trying to prove that she could push high power. I was like, right, okay, don't do that. But it's I think the more you know your riders really well, and that's the teams. I mean, if you look at the Prem division, you've got like Heino on the women, they win every TTT. You've got Saris and the men's who do really well. They have ridden together for years and years and years, and they know each other so well that they know if someone's pushing a little hard, it doesn't matter because they'll rein it in, or if someone's dropping off the back, they don't need to wait for them because they can catch up. It's just knowing your teammates. And that's what's really cool about this team time trial is as we start this season, we're race number 1, people will get to know each other, and then we'll just see strength after strength as the season progresses.
You're spot on about that, the different personalities that go into it. So the Tempest Fugitives here, they're looking reasonably smooth, actually. They're pretty high speeds. It's good to look at the percentage incline on the top right of screen, so 0%, so they are on a dead flat at the moment. And then to look at their speed and their power and see how consistently they can maintain it. Kind of the name of the game is trying to find a power and stay at that power without any of those ups and downs, because that will elicit an overall faster pace and higher speed. Of course, it's easier to say than to do necessarily, but they're doing a pretty good job keeping the speed up, certainly edging toward that 50k an hour. So we will get data if and when we can, but of course, Swift had a big maintenance session today because we have to get all of those things into game that everybody has been asking for and make sure it's working well. So we're still waiting for any data to be fed in, but everybody watching can be rest assured that it is all being recorded, and we'll get you those numbers and standings as soon as we possibly can.
That was a really great turn on the front there from this rider here, just called number 5. So sounds like a spy or something in this team, but he looks like he's managing to just get back on. So that was a nice little turn. We can see they're just catching up to a lone rider ahead. That's Crystal Cranks from AHDR. So All for the Cake has dropped one rider. I think that would be a strategic drop there from AHDR because they've only got less than 10k to go, and they probably pushed pretty hard on those ups and downs, and now this rider will be caught, and they're riding a very slow pace, just 3.5 watts per kg. They'll get past no problems. Don't think we'll see them jumping on the back. It'd be pretty pointless to do that, but yeah, AHDR dropping one rider as they come into that last 10 kilometers.
Well, his name makes me giggle a little bit, Crystal Cranks, because that's kind of what we call people in Australia who are known for soft pedaling. Saying that they've got crystal cranks and they don't want to push too hard, else the poor crystal cranks may break. So I'm sure that it is a bit of a dig at this guy. It's a good one though, isn't it? I bet you'll use it from now on.
I'm going to use that all the time. I love that. That's perfect.
Well, I mean, the Aussies do love a bit of self-depreciating humour sometimes, so I'm going to suggest that that's what's behind his his nickname there. It's one of my favourite parts of the early season is the names that people come up with for themselves and also for the teams, because I think they have a lot of fun. I mean, I can only imagine long and endless messenger chats between teams trying to come up with them all, to be honest.
I know, it's so good. I have just spotted here with the lead rider in this dirt group a visor. I have warned that all the teams I work with, if I see anyone wearing a visor, they're immediately cut from the team. I'm not sure if dirt will follow the same
It
protocol as
makes them a
that.
triathlete, doesn't it?
But even a triathlete wouldn't wear a visor on the bike. No
Oh,
way.
okay.
But although they don't, it looks like they're not even wearing socks. So maybe this is just a full triathlon team. Could be. Aero helmets, no
Yes.
socks, visors. Could be.
Oh, well, be warned when you line up with a visor and no socks. Anna's coming for you. Okay, we've gone back over here. We're looking at the women's field where Tamsin, we saw her last season doing pretty well. This is another AHDRL team, so that's the Aussie Hump Day Riders ladies team. So they're coming into the finish, 24 kilometres done in just under 36
Whoa,
minutes.
that's fast.
Cracking along. Yeah, Lam Kong, gee, she was impressive last season. I'm glad to see that she's back to give this one another crack. Some of the courses really suit her that are upcoming, so that's exciting to know. And they are moving. It'll be just over the 36-minute mark that they go through this, but that is a fast start to season 3, week 1, pardon me.
Goes that fast, doesn't it? It's
Yeah,
that was
it
incredibly
does.
fast. That's super impressive from a B women's team riding around that 35-minute mark. I'm super impressed with how fast that was. So they must have been having some great turns on the front and really pulled through in that last 10 kilometers, which I think you can just pull up so much momentum. As we watch, looks like one of the AHDRL teams coming through here with Heidi leading them through the finish. It'll be interesting to see if they'll put in a full noise sprint. That's where I actually have a little virtual coffee on the cards with the teams as who can actually win the within team sprint at the end. It's always a bit of fun when everyone's completely maxed out and has heart rates of about 190 to try and see who can sprint the best, but always make sure everyone's finished strong. But looks like these guys may just kind of pull it in a steady pace to the finish. They do have more than the required riders though, so they're sitting pretty safe.
Yeah, they're looking pretty good. They're a little bit slower than what we just saw come across the line, but not too far back at all. It'll be in a matter of seconds, actually. It's funny that you say the sprint to the line, because look at that, the acceleration happening from Heidi. She wants to get over the line first for intra-team honours, if nothing else.
Awesome.
But I have to say, Anna, I did a stage of the Tour of Watopia the other day, and I found myself with one other girl coming into the finish. And look, we weren't sprinting for the win, that's for sure, but we still did sprint each other. And I had a bit of a laugh afterwards when I collapsed on the floor, and I thought, what on earth was that for? But it's very tempting, isn't it? It's very easy to do. So we've got the TBR Smile On ladies have just crossed the line, and we're ducking over to the men. Zed's son here. This is, it looks like we're seeing an overtake happen here. Slightly messy overtakes.
So it looks like Zed's son have just taken over the Dirt Aces 2 team. Dirt Aces need to be careful here with these new rules that they drop back out of that draft. They are dropping back to a lower watts per kg, but they're going to have to really keep dropping that back. They're still too close. I still think it looks like they're sort of just outside of that 5 meters, and especially where they're sort of coming up to now. There's a little ups and downs over this bridge. This is dangerous territory for them to be still so close to that team in front. It is their responsibility to drop back.
So there was a 1 minute gap between them. And I've just noticed, actually, Anna, they're called Eat Dirt Aces too, which is a little bit sassy.
Fantastic.
Isn't it? Eat Dirt.
Oh no. I did want to go back though to your comment about the Tour of Watopia, and anyone who's watching maybe can help me with a bit of etiquette. So I have been racing that Tour of Watopia as well, because I desperately want to get to level 43 so I can get those Super 9 amazing looking disc wheels for racing in the B Cats this season. But I also sprinted to the line at the end. Now, in real life, I don't know if I would do that in a group ride. So is it bad etiquette to do that in a Zwift group ride like Tour of Watopia? I mean, I waited as long as I could, and then when I saw others sprinting, I just went for it. But is that wrong? I just didn't know. I didn't feel great to do it, but it was also a bit of fun.
Yeah, I mean, maybe somebody can school me on that etiquette too, because I've been doing the same. Although I must say I've found some excellent camaraderie out there, especially on stage 2, which goes up the mountain. There's another 48 hours or so to get stage 2 done for anybody who hasn't done that yet. It's a great course, and it is certainly an interesting one. Oh, Anna, here's your boy, Sam Lindsay, DPAC out on course. They have just made an overtake as well. They are bolting along here. Sam Lindsay looking strong as an ox, 470 watts, over 500, over 50k now, 500k now. Now I'm getting a bit excited. 50k now, but we knew that they'd have a big impact this season. But it looks to me like they're starting with week 1, having a very big ride here, down to 4 riders, Anna, but boy, they're moving.
Wow. I mean, what's on the front? We saw when we talked about Relentless on that, they're pushing sort of just on 5.5 and their speed was about 47. These guys are hitting 51, 52, riding at more over the 7s, and I'm seeing they're taking very short turns. So these guys know what they're doing. I mean, Sam Lindsay, he's an old hat at this kind of racing. He knows what he's doing. I see another Kiwi in there, actually, Firminger, and then we've got Jones and Morgan. Morgan had a stellar season in season 2 as well. I mean, I just don't know how these guys will be beaten with the speeds and the power they are just hitting here. I mean, it's very, very impressive.
That's quite a few star points there for Ed Morgan as well. Look at that; it's like a little man bun under a little cap. I like that. What do you think, Anna? Because it's your kind of the fashion police over me.
I do like it. I actually just noticed Sam's rocking a little bit of a different hat as well than he was last season. So I think they've taken this fashion on point and they're really putting in top effort to maybe take out the fashion awards for season 3. I mean, matching glasses to the kit with the black little, what's that called? What's that cycling hat called? I never know. The little peaked cap. Yes. These guys are looking very, very fresh.
They are like early contenders for the overall fashion awards. But what's super impressive is that this speed is still so high. They're going to come very close, Anna, to getting under that 30-minute mark. They've got less than 2 kilometres left to go. 27 and a half minutes have gone by so far, nearly 50k an hour. This is a pretty fast section and they only look to be increasing their speed.
Yeah, I mean, I just was Googling what it's called. It's called a casquette, French word. Oh. Those little hats that you wear under a helmet. So there we go, a casquette. We've got an orange one and a black one there. But these guys, yeah, I mean, kind of coming up last 2 kilometers, within 2 kilometers of the finish. There's only 4 riders. I'd be interested to know if they did strategically jettison some along the way and just have been left with their top 4, or if they only started with 4. So I'm not sure if anyone knows that who's watching. But I mean, these speeds, that looks like they've been averaging about 50k for this whole last portion, and they're just catching people. You can see that dirt team only 8 seconds up the road. They'd already passed another team behind them, 13 seconds back now. So probably one of the better teams today, I would have to say. Looking good, riding at a good pace, finishing nice and tight, and passing a lot of people along the way in this 24-kilometre race.
Yeah, well, I noticed one of the Aero Masters riders that I saw his name pop up there, Luke Mckenzie. There he is now. They're 14 seconds back. They actually started a minute in front. So DPAC have taken over a minute out of them, so they were caught and passed. But Aero Masters, Luke Mckenzie there, he's been a long time cyclist, turned his focus to the Zwift world and doing a pretty good job. It's pretty impressive, Anna, to have some kind of old minds within these teams that are able to add a bit of what we could call in real life race guidance to the virtual world, because it is a little bit different, but the experience goes a long way. Now, this is incredible. They are making another overtake in this final turn, but they're coming in. They're going to come so close to under this 30-minute mark, Anna. This is unbelievable.
Oh, this is unreal, especially with 4 riders. I mean, we just saw behind them a full team of 6 riders, not even getting anywhere near the speeds that these 4 are going. So this just shows the absolute raw power that DPAC has in this league. I mean, they went to the playoff and they didn't make it to the Premier Division. So I think these guys have got a lot to prove, and I think this is what we're seeing. Bit of motivation to get there after this season.
It looks like they just went over in 29.59, which is mind-blowing speeds, absolutely phenomenal. Aeromasters will come across the line there, all 6 of them together, so great riding from them. A good way to start the season with some pretty good morale. 31 minutes and 19 seconds, so still a very fast time for them. I don't think anybody saw an under 30 minutes happening, even on a fast course like this. So that's, you're right, DPAC's come in super motivated. I think everybody, themselves included, were a little bit surprised and maybe a bit disappointed to not make that Prem League from the last one. But I tell you what, if they do this season what they did last season in terms of their trajectory of improvement, then watch out for next season, because I think that they are just going to keep impressing. So we're back out on course. We're jumping in with the C's now. Of course, we've got pretty good numbers across all divisions, Anna. It's been really impressive how many teams have entered across all of the different divisions here. Gigante, that is a very famous cycling name in Australia. Of course, Sarah Gigante racing the Tour of Flanders on the weekend.
Oh, yes. And is that a relation of Sarah Gigante? Have to be.
I'm not sure. I mean, shout out to anybody watching and let us know. It's normally her mum, Kerry, who we see the most active in the Zwift world, and certainly pushing the button at the World Championships for the power-ups. But this might be another member of the famed cycling family. Or it may, you know what, it could, if you can choose your own name in game, I feel like I might adopt the Gigante name sometimes too. Oh, Anna, it might just give me a few more watts in the legs.
I'm hoping it would for me too. But actually, I will tell you, Kate, that we got a message from someone watching that it is not bad etiquette to be sprinting in the Tour of Watopia. So go for it on the next one.
Excellent.
I know you like a good sprint. So yes, you can sprint for those placings, and it's not bad etiquette. I'm very stoked to hear that. And is this a mixed team that we're seeing here?
Let's take a look. Of course, it does look like it is. So there are, the men's is not just men's. The men's is actually across all of divisions. We can have mixed teams. So I think that is exactly what we're seeing here. A mixed team, which is unreal that the teams do enter it. And this is a better uptake than we saw last season, Anna, because it was almost unusual to see one, not random woman, but you'd see a woman in what we thought was a men's team quite sporadically. But this is great if we're actually getting more heartily entered mixed teams. It actually looks like there may be 4 women in here from what we could see.
2 men?
One wearing a visor, Anna, much to your chagrin.
Oh, no, I saw that. I saw it. Points lost for this team, but is this the Evo team as well? Because Anna Casquette, I'm glad I know that word